What's up, guys? This is Kyle again. On my previous video, we've already talked about the first part of Bart Ehrman's book, How Jesus Became God, and I wanted to take the second part of it and take care of it in a separate video because it deals with some other ideas that I thought deserved its own little segment. So, in Ehrman's book, he describes how, or he tries to show that the idea of Jesus being divine has developed over the years and is thus reliable. So me as a physics teacher, I'm gonna have a little fun with this one. So I would argue, or I have argued, that the ideas of Jesus being divine were put forth by himself, and that we have historical data of those ideas being there from the start. Now, after the New Testament in the early church, those ideas were refined through the years. So he one of the things he does is he looks at like the Council of Nicaea and with a very robust theology of Jesus, of the person of Jesus, and tries to show that since that has refined, that it is therefore reliable or unreliable. And so what I want to do is I want to take a second and look at a couple of things, a couple examples of ideas being refined in hopes to show that that doesn't necessarily mean that it is less reliable as long as the data is unchanged. So, first the two things is the discovery of the electron and then the nature of light. Okay, so if you humor me for a little bit as a physics teacher, so the electron was discovered in the 1800s using an experiment called the cathode ray tube. The cathode ray tube was that experiment happened in the 1850s, but it wasn't understood until about 40 years later by this guy named J.J. Thomson. Now, in that 40 years, people in the scientific community repeated the experiment, still trying to understand what was going on, but not until 40 years was it accurately understood that what the glowing stuff that they were seeing was actually a fundamental part of the building blocks of matter. Now, that idea, or the understanding of their observations, took some time to be refined. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's unreliable because of the time it took. So the other thing I want to mention is the idea of light. Now, a couple hundred years ago, we had Newton making some observations about light. His idea was that light was made up of little corpuscles, tiny little bits of mass that made up light. So light acted like a particle. So then, 100 years later or so, we started getting, dominated for a while. Then we have the idea that light is more like a wave. Coming up later with a guy named James Clerk Maxwell proposed the idea that light is an electromagnetic wave. It's an electric field that oscillates, changes, and produces a magnetic field, and those changing electric and magnetic fields are propagating through space. So we've got some evidence of light behaving in a particle-like way, and we've got some evidence of light behaving in a wave-like way, and then we've got Einstein and guys in the 20th century showing that light can sometimes behave like a wave, and sometimes it can behave like a particle. Now, the weird thing is that there is paradox. Now, in physics, we don't like that, right? So typically, to behave like a wave is the opposite of behaving like a particle. And I kind of use that as an analogy for our understanding of Jesus, because to behave like a human is, or to be a human is potentially to be God, or to be God is not to be human. And it seems that it took them a while for the church refined its understanding of Jesus, and their answer was also a paradox. So if our answer is a paradox, but without changing the data, so we're not manipulating the historical data of the New Testament or the scientific data of our understanding of light. So if our answer is a paradox, it shouldn't lead to uncertainty, but should lead to wonder. So it's kind of cool to think about maybe if Jesus was the creator and he referred to himself as the light of the world, I wonder if he could possibly mean the dual nature deal, but I digress on that one. If it takes time to refine our understanding of the things that we've observed, that shouldn't lead to uncertainty, but to wonder. Bart Ehrman's book is a great book. It's been very fun to read, very enjoyable. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'm looking forward to more books and more videos in the future.